In the beginning of the drama, we see the female lead Jiang, and today her graduation is completed. She has a crush on her class president. She very courageously starts going to confess her love. Then a girl comes to that boy and starts talking to him. Then her friend comes to her with her boyfriend. They tells Jiang, "See what a lovely couple both are." That girl is going to go out of the country for studies with the class president. Hearing this, Jiang feels very bad. Then her friend gives her a rose. After which, Jiang drinks too much. Then in the next scene, the male lead Chungmu is standing by a sea. Then Jiang comes there and is very drunk. She feels that her class president is standing there, and she proposes to Chungmu. Chungmu says, "Maybe you are looking for someone else," and starts to leave from there. Then Jiang grabs his hand and starts to fall. Chungmu catches her and saves her from falling, and she kisses him in a drunk state. After that, we are shown a scene after 1 year. Jiang has now become a blogger and makes videos with every popular dessert. Then she sees Chungmu's name written on a paper. Chungmu has become the manager of a dessert store. Chungmu has made a very popular dessert named Miss Moon, and because of this, his restaurant has become very famous all over the city. After that, Jiang comes to Chungmu's restaurant to try the mooncake. Then she meets Chungmu's friend there. She orders mooncake and asks about Chungmu. Then Chungmu sees her and remembers the incident from 1 year ago when Jiang was drunk, and she had mistakenly kissed him and proposed as well. Now he is just thinking this. Then by mistake, the cake gets spoiled, and he starts throwing the cake. Then his friend tells him, "No, do not throw it. I will eat this cake." On the other side, when Jiang eats the mooncake, she likes it very much. She starts writing an article about that cake. Then Chungmu comes and sits in front of her. Jiang says, "This cake is very delicious. What have you mixed in this?" Then Chungmu becomes a little disheartened, and he comes to know that Jiang has forgotten everything about that day. He does not tell her anything about the mooncake because that is his secret recipe. After knowing this, Jiang writes about Chungmu. He is quite good looking, but he is not a good person at all. After which we see Jiang sitting in the same restaurant till evening writing an article. Even all of Chungmu's friends, workers, everyone goes to their homes. Then Chungmu comes to Jiang and says, "Now it is closing time for the store." Then Jiang once again asks him for the recipe of the mooncake, on which Chungmu says, "I do not like giving interviews." After which Jiang comes out of the restaurant and she gets very angry at Chungmu. Then she gives 0 marks to Chungmu for his personality. Now Chungmu comes back home and thinks about that incident when Jiang had mistakenly proposed to him. That day, Chungmu had taken off a chain from his neck and gave it to her, and had kept the rose she had given with him. Chungmu thinks, "Has she really forgotten me?" In the next scene, we see Jiang talking to her sister on a video call. She tells her, "Chungmu is very good at making desserts, but he has refused to tell me the recipe of the mooncake." Then her sister's son also starts talking to her on the video call, who is very cute, whose name is Ruy Ruy. Then Jiang says, "Now I am ending the call." Then Jiang starts following her everywhere, and then while following him, she reaches her house and the guard stops her from coming inside. But then Chungmu sees her and says, "Let her come inside." When Jiang comes inside, then Chungmu says, "Why have you been following me for so long?" Then Jiang says, "I only want to know about the mooncake. I have read a lot of comments on the internet. Is there any story behind its recipe?" On which Chungmu says, "Yes, there is a story, but why should I tell you? I do not even know you." Saying this, he takes that paper from her hand in which she had written all the details of Chungmu. He sees that 0 is written in the personality score, on which he says, "You have written all the details wrong. I should have got full 5 stars in this. Now won't give this paper back to you." Then Jiang tries to take the paper back, but he says, "If you come to me next time for this boring work, then I will not even let you enter the restaurant." After which, Jiang comes home and starts searching about Chungmu on the internet. After which she comes to know that Chungmu also has a sister whose name is Chungyu. After seeing that, Jiang becomes very happy because she is working in Chungyu's company. After which she goes to meet Chungyu and asks her to convince Chungmu for the interview, on which Chungyu says, "This is a very difficult task because he does not give interviews. He does not like all this." On which Jiang says, by taking his interview, his store and dessert will become even more popular. On which Chungyu agrees to arrange the interview, and also says, "You stay away from him, otherwise you may have problem later." Jiang does not understand anything why she is saying this, but still she says yes and leaves from there. In the next scene, we see Chungmu's friend modeling, who also does modeling along with working in his restaurant. Then he goes to Chungmu and says, if you take a little care of your face, then a lot of girls will have a crush on you. And if you come in a relationship, then all the tension of your sister will end so that I can impress her in a good way. On which Chungmu says to him that she does not like you at all and starts to leave from there. On which he says to Chungmu, do not forget to talk to your sister about me. Chungmu starts teasing him and leaves from there. In the next scene, we see Chungmu working in the restaurant with his friends and also having a lot of fun. Then Jiang comes there. She shows him a card and says, I do food blogging inside your sister's company and have come to take your interview. Now you will have to give the interview. Then Chungmu sends his friends away from there and says to Jiang, ask your questions. Jiang says to him, is there any such story from which you have been inspired to make this dessert? On which Chungmu says that there is no such story. After which Jiang asks him many more questions and says to him that this interview is going to be very good for you because I have 1 million followers on my blogging account. Then Chungmu searches her account on his phone and tells her, you only have 1 lakh followers. On which Jiang makes a face and says, yes, what is wrong? I said 1 million followers will also come one day. Then Chungmu starts telling her the story that inspired him to make this mooncake. He tells that 1 year ago I had become very disheartened with my life and was standing at the seaside. Then a girl came to me who was very drunk, and she had proposed to me considering me as her class president and also motivated me a lot. After coming home, Jiang posts this story and sleeps. And along with this story becomes famous overnight and becomes very viral. Chungyu calls Chungmu and Jiang to meet. Then along with this, Chungmu's friend also comes because he wants an excuse to meet Chungyu. Then Chungmu asks his sister, why have you called us? Chungyu says, because of Jiang's article, we have got a very good response, and a company is also ready to cooperate with us. Now what to do next? After which Jiang says, my followers want to know the whole story well. If we go to the place where that girl had confessed her love, then we can make it even more interesting. Chungmu tells Jiang about that place where he had met that girl. Jiang says, I already know about this place. We had gone there once on a college trip. In the next scene, Chungmu and Jiang both go to that village. Then Jiang starts booking a room for herself. Then the manager there tells her, there is no room available here. On which he says to Jiang, don't you even have that much common sense that you book your room beforehand? And tells the manager, give her my room. Then a wheel of Jiang's bag breaks, and Chungmu picks up her bag and takes it to the room. Then Jiang asks him, where will you stay now? On which he says, I will book in some other hotel, and takes his phone. He starts saving her number and says, if you need anything, then contact me. Then he looks towards Jiang and keeps looking, and remembers that day when he had met her for the first time. Next night, Jiang reaches that location where Chungmu is already standing. Jiang asks him, did you get any room? On which he says, no, all the rooms were booked. I had to spend the whole night in my car. After which, he gives her a rose in her hand and says, if our memory is linked to some smell, then it gets refreshed with that smell only. And he asks her to smell that rose. Then Jiang smells that rose, and she remembers that memory when she had mistakenly kissed Chungmu, and she says, was that girl me? After which, she becomes very confused and quickly comes back to the guest room. Then Chungmu says to her, are you hiding something from me? She says, no, I have no secret. Then Jiang's foot gets twisted and she starts falling down. Chungmu catches her, after which Jiang pushes him away and quickly goes inside. After she goes, Chungmu starts checking his heartbeat, which is very fast, and he ignores it and leaves from there. In the next scene, Jiang is sitting in her room and thinking, is it true that he made the mooncake inspired by me? But looking at him, it seems that he does not like me at all. Then how can he be inspired by me? In the next scene, we see that Chungmu is going to find a hotel outside the village because all the hotels in the village are booked. Then his car breaks down, and along with this, the weather also gets bad. Then Jiang is very worried about him. She calls him and asks, did you get a room for tonight? He tells her, no, my car has broken down, and tonight I will have to spend the night in the car. Then his phone switches off. He starts searching for the charger in the car, but it remains at home. On the other side, Jiang is getting very worried about Chungmu. She sees herself as a reporter in her imagination and tells everyone, a boy who was stuck in a storm because of heavy rain and bad weather lost his life in the car. She's getting bad thoughts. Then she goes out to find him. She is also feeling scared, but still, she keeps walking. She goes near Chungmu's car. Then Chungmu starts pretending to sleep after seeing her. Jiang wakes him up and says, the weather is very bad. You come with me to my room. On which Chungmu says, "Did you also bring an umbrella for me?" She says, "No." On which Chungmu says, "Now you have two options. Either go back to the guest house or stay with me in the car." Jiang decides to stay in the car and says, "That day I had mistakenly proposed to you. Please forgive me," and asks, "Did you also give me any necklace that night?" Chungmu says, "Yes, consider it a gift from me. And you talk a lot. Please be quiet. I have to sleep." After this, Jiang also sleeps. After she sleeps, Chungmu looks at her and puts his jacket on her so that she does not feel cold. After that, morning comes. Jiang's eyes open. Then Chungmu is not there. Jiang gets out of the car and starts looking for him. Then he is coming from the front carrying food for her. After which, the driver says to both of them, "You people don't have any common sense," and says to Chungmu, "You stayed in this car with your girlfriend all night." On which Jiang says, "You have some misunderstanding. We are not boyfriend and girlfriend." After which, that driver leaves. Chungmu asks Jiang to eat food and tells her, "You were the girl from whom I got inspired to make the mooncake." After which, in the next scene, we see that Jiang has come to her home and posts that story by making a happy ending. In the next scene, we see that Jiang and Chungmu get a call, and both are called to the airport. As soon as both go there, a small child, who is Jiang's sister's son, is standing with a lawyer. Chungmu says, "This is my friend's son. He wants me to keep him with me." Then Jiang starts calling her sister. But Ruy Ruy says, "No, auntie, do not call mommy. My mom and dad are about to get divorced." In the next scene, Jiang and Chungmu are sitting with Ruy Ruy. Then Jiang says to him, "You come with me to my home." On which he says, "I am a boy, and how can I live with a girl?" Jiang lures him to feed him good food, but he refuses. Then Chungmu says, "My friend has given me the responsibility of him. I am his godfather. That's why he will stay with me." Then Ruy Ruy says to Jiang, "You also come with me to Godfather's house." But she says, "Your godfather is a boy, and how can I live with a boy?" After which, she promises Ruy Ruy, "I will come to meet him at Chungmu's home every day." The next day, Chungmu brings Ruy Ruy to the restaurant with him and introduces him to all his friends and asks his friends, "Do any of you have time? Can you take care of Ruy Ruy?" Then all of his friends one by one make an excuse and leave from there. Then Chungmu makes him sit with him and starts working. Then he asks Ruy Ruy, "Does your Jiang auntie also like anything besides noodles or not?" Ruy Ruy says, "Whenever my mommy used to talk to her, she used to eat noodles all the time because she is very poor. She hardly has money for house rent." Then Ruy Ruy asks him, "Do you also like my auntie?" On which Chungmu does not answer. Then, while he is working, Ruy Ruy throws all the flour on himself, after which he gets very upset with his mischiefs. In the next scene, we see that Chungmu and Ruy Ruy are playing together. Then Jiang comes there and starts scolding Chungmu. "In this weather, why are you letting Ruy Ruy play near the water? What if he gets cold?" Then Ruy Ruy makes a cute face and says, "I have full right to decide to play." Then Jiang says, "Yes, absolutely. And the doctor also has the right to decide when to give you which medicine." Then they go inside the house. Chungmu calls his friend and asks him to bring food. When his friend Lee comes there with the food, he gets shocked after seeing Jiang and asks her, "Why are you here?" On which Jiang was about to explain to him, then Chungmu tells him everything. Later, Chungmu and Ruy Ruy ask Jiang to make food, after eating which Ruy Ruy gets pain in his stomach. Chungmu feels very bad he could not take care of Ruy Ruy because he got sick because of getting cold. Then Chungmu remembers how he was also ignored in his childhood because of his parents, and he says to Jiang, "Stay with me at my house for Ruy Ruy." In the next scene, we see that Chungmu asks Jiang, "Can you come to stay at my house for a few days?" Hearing this, Jiang gets a little shocked. Then Chungmu tells her, "I cannot take Ruy Ruy to the shop every day. You don't have any job, so you can take care of him after I go to my shop." Jiang says, "You are very busy in your work, so send him to my house, but I cannot stay at your house." Then Chungmu says, "If we do this every day, then he will feel both of us don't want to take care of him. If you come, you will get a house and food absolutely free." Jiang says, "Okay, I will think about it." Then Ruy Ruy says in his sleep, "Mama, I miss you." Hearing this, Jiang agrees to go to his house. In the next scene, we see that Chungmu and Ruy Ruy are sitting at home and waiting for Jiang. Chungmu says, maybe she changed her mind. Then he sees Jiang coming, so he immediately goes and opens the door, and he was also very happy. After this, Chungmu shows her his kitchen and living room. Then he picks up Ruy Ruy in his arms and says, "Don't trouble Auntie too much." Then Ruy Ruy hugs them both together and says, "Wow, from today Auntie will also stay with Godfather." Hearing this, they both start feeling a little nervous. And after that, Chungmu leaves for his shop. After this, Jiang and Ruy Ruy are sitting in their room, but the color of all things was black and white, which they did not like at all. Then, a mischievous idea comes into both their minds, and they both together make that room colorful. On the other hand, Changmu's friend tells him, another new dessert store is about to open near our store. Changmu says, it is okay, they will never be able to steal our customers. In the next scene, we see that Changmu was taking a new dessert home when his friend comes and says, I will try this first, but Changmu says, this is not for you. Saying this, he leaves. After he goes, all his friends start talking. Why was the boss in such a hurry today? I have never seen him going home so quickly. In the next scene, when Changmu reaches his house, he could not even believe this was his house because those two had completely changed the color of his house. He did not like all this. Then Ruy Ruy says, if you do not change your choice, then you will never be able to get married. After this, Changmu shows a box Ruy Ruy's dad had sent. There was a camera in it by which it would be easier for them to keep an eye on Ruy Ruy. Then Changmu gives them the dessert and says to them, I have made this recently. Jiang tastes it. Changmu keeps watching her while she is eating and then asks her to name this dessert. She names it Meeting. Although this name is very strange, Changmu likes it, so he changes the name given by him and gives it a new name. In the next scene, Jiang sees a rose kept in her room. Seeing this, she thinks why Changmu would have kept a rose here, maybe he likes me. Then she says, no, what am I thinking? Meanwhile, Changmu is bathing Ruy Ruy. Ruy Ruy is being mischievous with him and starts getting him wet with water. Then Changmu takes his water gun and Ruy Ruy yells, Jiang, come here. Jiang comes there and sees them both being mischievous, so she starts scolding Changmu. Then Ruy Ruy tells her, Godfather was troubling me. Jiang tells him, you have grown so big, yet you are troubling a small child. After that, she starts taking Ruy Ruy from there and tells Changmu, after you take a shower, clean the bathroom. Then Ruy Ruy says, Godfather works very slowly, on which Jiang tells Changmu, I can beat you in this. Then Changmu says, oh, you can beat me in taking a shower? So then he starts taking off his t-shirt. Jiang tells him, I was saying to beat you in bathroom cleaning. Saying this, she leaves from there and comes to her room, keeps remembering the bathroom scene repeatedly, and gets lost in the thoughts of Changmu. She keeps getting his thoughts repeatedly. Regaining herself, she starts doing her work, and after some time, while doing her work, she falls asleep. Then Changmu comes there, sees her, and starts smiling. He brings a blanket and covers her, and along with it, he takes the flowers kept there and leaves. The next day, Jiang comes to him with a contract in which she had written some conditions for living together in the house. The first condition was, you cannot come inside my room without permission. The second condition was, you have to help me in cleaning the common areas of the house. The third condition was, you have to wear proper dress in the house. Changmu accepts all her conditions and adds one of his own. You have to tell me before going anywhere because if something happens to Ruy Ruy, then I will be responsible for. Jiang also accepts his condition and both sign this contract. After that, Jiang takes a picture of the three of them with this contract. Later, Jiang is trying to cook food, while Changmu and Ruy Ruy are sitting and making fun of her. After this, we see that Changmu is sitting in his shop and is watching Jiang and Ruy Ruy on his phone because he had installed the camera in his house for Ruy Ruy. Now, he also gets a chance to see Jiang on the pretext of Ruy Ruy. Then one of his friends comes to him and says, I have been watching you all day. What are you watching on your phone? Changmu ignores his question and tells him to leave. In the next scene, Changyu comes to his house and tells her, I heard that my brother has given you permission to live in his house. By the way, what do you think about my brother? Jiang says, I don't think anything like that about him. Your brother is very cool, and I am not his type. Changyu says, if it is not like that, then why is he asking you to stay in his house? Jiang tells her, he has only called me to take care of Ruy Ruy. Changyu says, he is just using Ruy Ruy to get you. Then Changyu calls Ruy Ruy and tells him, if your godfather becomes your uncle, then you three will become a real family. Hearing this, Ruy Ruy says, marry my godfather soon. Jiang starts scolding Ruy Ruy and says, Changmu doesn't think like this about me. Then she gets a call from Changmu who tells her, bring my notebook. But Jiang says, I am busy right now. Send someone else to take the notebook. Then Changyu says, Ruy Ruy will stay with me so you can go there. Jiang forcefully agrees to bring the notebook. After this, she is going to give the notebook. So Changmu tells her, come quickly. Then the notebook falls from her hand. When she starts to put the bookmark in it, she comes to know that Changmu is going to launch a new product. After this, she gives the notebook to Changmu's friend and asks him, why is your boss looking so flustered today? On this, Changmu's friend tells her, he is a little tense about the new products. Then Jiang leaves from there saying, give the notebook to Changmu. In the next scene, we see that Jiang and Ruy Ruy are playing with bubbles. Then Chungmu also comes back from the store and starts smiling, seeing Jiang. Then he goes to Ruy Ruy, takes his bubble machine and tells him, "Your clothes have gotten very wet, go inside and change." Then Ruy Ruy pulls both of them closer to each other, and they make eye contact. After a while, Jiang takes Ruy Ruy and goes inside. In the next scene, we see that Jiang gets a message from her sister saying, "You live with Chungmu in his house, so you should think about dating him." On this, Jiang refuses her and says, "I am very tired, please let me sleep." On the other side, Chungmu also gets a message from Ruy Ruy's dad that says, "Send me the security camera password so that I can also see Ruy Ruy." But Chungmu refuses to give him the password, thinking that Jiang is also living in his house with Ruy Ruy, and how could he let anyone else see her? The next morning, a new product is being launched at Chungmu's store. Then one of Chungmu's friends comes to him and says, "Our same kind of sweet is also being launched in another store." Then Jiang and Ruy Ruy also come there. Chungmu's friend angrily asks her, "What are you doing here?" Then he tells Chungmu, "All this happened because of her. The day she came to give the notebook, I told her that you are going to launch a new product." Jiang was not understanding what happened. Then Chungmu tells her, "The same product as ours is also being launched in another store." Then Jiang says, "You mean he is doubting me, that I have leaked this product?" The friend says, "I am not just doubting. I am sure that you only have done all this because you were the one who touched the notebook except me and the boss." Then Jiang tells Chungmu, "You only told me to bring that notebook. Or don't you have even trust in me?" On this, Chungmu says, "This is not the time to talk about all this. First, we should find the solution to this problem." Then Jiang says, "Means you are also doubting me." Saying this, she leaves from there angrily. After she leaves, Ruy Ruy tells Chungmu, "You have made your aunt very angry. When my mom used to get angry with my dad, he used to react like a cute boy. So you should also try this." Meanwhile, Jiang is standing outside the store, and it was raining heavily. Then Ruy Ruy tells Chungmu, "It is raining outside, so you go quickly. I will wait for you here." After this, we see that Jiang is getting wet in the rain. Then Chungmu comes there with an umbrella, and Jiang tells him, "You were not satisfied after fighting at the shop, so you came?" Chungmu tells her, "I have come here to say sorry to you, and I was not doubting you." But Jiang says, "I don't want to live in your house anymore. I am going back to my home." On this, Chungmu says, "If you leave, then what will I answer to Ruy Ruy?" Jiang says, "You tell him that I am going on a business trip." Saying this, she leaves from there. In the next scene, we see that Jiang has left their house, and Chungmu tells Ruy Ruy, "After I go to my shop, Lijing uncle will stay with you." Then Lijing comes there, and Chungmu tells Ruy Ruy to stay with Lijing, and leaves from there. In the next scene, Chungmu's friend tells him, "Someone had sent an email about our sweet to the chef of that dessert store." Chungmu asks him, "Do you also know who had sent the email?" On this, his friend says, "Who else can do this except Jiang? She was always one step ahead of you. She must have used some side account and sent the email." On this, Chungmu says, "No, she can't do this. I have trust in her." On the other side, Jiang had become ill due to getting wet in the rain, but still, she was trying to find out who leaked Chungmu's new product. In the next scene, Lijing comes to the shop with Ruy Ruy, and he tells Chungmu, "Auntie has not gone on a business trip but has gone to her house. Why did you lie to me?" On this, Chungmu tells him, "Auntie is very busy, that's why she can't stay with us." Ruy Ruy says, "You are lying to me again. This uncles have told me everything." Then Chungmu promises Ruy Ruy, "I will bring Auntie back very soon." After this, both of them come home, and Ruy Ruy starts insisting, "I want to eat food made by Auntie's hands." He says, "Call her and tell her, cook food for me and bring it." Then Chungmu calls Jiang, but she doesn't pick up the call. He tries again, but this time too, there's no response. After this, Chungmu's sister comes to his house and starts scolding him because he was feeding Ruy Ruy junk food. After this, she says to him, "I just came to meet Jiang, but now I'm worried about her because she isn't answering my calls. And she had to post something today, but she hasn't done that either." Hearing this, Ruy Ruy says, "I know Auntie's address." Hearing this, Chungmu says, "If Ruy Ruy is so worried about her, I should go and check on her once." At this, Chung Yu, teasing him, says, "Stop pretending in front of me. I know who is really worried about her." In the next scene, we see Chungmu going to Jiang's house and taking care of her. Jiang thought all this was a dream. She says to Chungmu, "If you were even half as gentle in real life as you are now, you would look so much cuter." Chungmu replies, "What am I, a little kid, to look cute?" To this, Jiang says, "If you're not cute, who will love you? Do you want to stay alone forever? Chungmu then says, do you care so much about me? At this, Jiang touches his face. Chungmu moves away, so Jiang says, we've already kissed once. What's the problem with touching? Anyway, this is just a dream, so I can touch you as many times as I want. As soon as she realizes it's not a dream, she quickly stands up. Chungmu says, it seems like you're desperate to see me in your dreams. At this, Jiang asks, why have you come to my house? You're not here to apologize to me, are you? Chungmu replies, you should be thanking me. If I hadn't come today, you would have died from fever. Jiang says, my own house is better. Saying this, she goes back to sleep, but Chungmu doesn't leave the house because Jiang might need him. So, he stays there and reads a note Jiang had written about her class president. After reading this, he starts looking up tips on his phone about how to win over girls. It said that if you talk to her sweetly, she'll forgive you. After this, he cleans her entire house and leaves a note saying, I brought some more medicine for you. Take it on time. Then he goes back to his own house. In the next scene, we see Jiang's class president, Han Mu, who has returned from abroad. His sister, Han Xing, is also with him. She says, you came back for this dessert store? Its interior design isn't even good. Han Mu says, at least don't criticize my store in front of me or else I might hit you. Han Xing replies, don't threaten me. After this, she says, I clicked some photos of handsome guys while coming here. Then she starts uploading those photos. At this, Han Mu says to her, come and help me here tomorrow. But Han Xing replies, we just got here. I want to have some fun first. Han Mu says, fine, then you won't get any pocket money this month. At this, Han Xing says, no, I'll definitely come tomorrow. In the next scene, we see Jiang going to the store that had copied Chungmu's products. Meanwhile, Chungmu's friends see her entering the store. Inside, Jiang starts looking at the sweets when she meets her class president, on whom she had a crush. Now he is the manager of that store. On the other hand, Chungmu's friends quickly run to inform him, we just saw Jiang entering the sweet store. Chungmu's friend Bibin says to him, see, I told you, she's the one who did all this. She must have gone there to take credit. Chungmu then tells them to get back to work and heads to the dessert store himself. Meanwhile, we see Jiang and her class president, Han Mu, sitting and talking. Jiang asks him about his girlfriend, Li Mu, to which Han Mu replies, I don't talk to her much. Jiang says, you both went abroad together, so I thought you two were dating. Han Mu replies, you're misunderstanding, I wasn't dating her. Actually, for the past year, I've been waiting to say that before he can say anything further. Jiang interrupts and says, let's stop talking about the past. Then she congratulates him on becoming the sweet store manager. At that moment, Chungmu also arrives, but Han Xing accidentally bumps into him and spills coffee on him. When she looks at Chungmu, she finds him extremely handsome. Chungmu says to her, there's a store of mine just around the corner. You can find a boy named Bibin there. Go to him for compensation. Han Xing replies, I don't know anything about the store. Give me your contact number. Chungmu gives her his number and leaves. Han Xing then thinks to herself, he's even more handsome than my brother. After this, Chungmu sees Jiang talking to Han Mu. Jiang thinks, these people were already suspicious of me, and now explaining this to them will be even harder. Chungmu then sits down with them. Han Xing also arrives there. Jiang introduces Han Mu to Chungmu, saying, he's my class president and we just met today, so please don't suspect me. Hearing this, Chungmu feels jealous and angry. He says to Han Mu, I've heard a lot about you. Jiang tries to take Chungmu away from there, but Chungmu says, I'm in no hurry to leave. Chungmu then says to Han Mu, I need to discuss something with you about your sweet store. You're really good at copying desserts. Jiang stops Chungmu from talking further about this. Then Chungmu, trying to make Han Mu jealous, says to Jiang, you must be in a hurry to feed Ruy Ruy. He then says to Han Mu, Ruy Ruy is our son. Han Xing asks Chungmu, are you married? Jiang starts to tell her the truth, but before she can say anything, Chungmu pulls her away from there. It's unclear if Han Mu got jealous, but poor Han Xing's heart broke after hearing this. While Chungmu is taking Jiang away, he says to her, your class president has copied my desserts. Jiang replies, this could be a coincidence too. Sometimes people have the exact same ideas. Chungmu says, this isn't a coincidence because Bibin has already found out that someone used a side account to give them information about our desserts. Jiang responds, I don't even have a side account. Chungmu says, I never said that you did. Jiang then says, then why are you suspecting me? I'm angry with you and I have no intention of forgiving you. Then she picks up her bag and starts to leave, but Chungmu stops her. Jiang comes back and asks him how Ruy Ruy is doing. Chungmu tells her, Ruy Ruy is not well, please meet him once. After this, she accompanies him to the shop to meet Ruy Ruy. When Ruy Ruy sees her, he becomes very happy and says, Tonight, you have to tell me a story with Godfather. However, Jiang says, I'm very busy right now. I can't stay at Godfather's house, but you can come to my house for a few days. Ruy Ruy replies, no, I want to stay with Godfather. Jiang says, okay, whenever I have time, I will come to meet you. After this, she prepares to leave. Ruy Ruy takes Chung Mu to Jiang and says, Auntie, Godfather wants to tell you something. Chung Mu starts feeling a little nervous and says, be careful while going home. After this, Jiang leaves. After this, we see Chung Mu looking up tips on the internet on how to make up with a girlfriend. The tips include taking her out to dinner, buying her a new bag, or pretending to be sick to gain her sympathy. Chung Mu doesn't like any of these ideas and says, only someone crazy like Li Jing would try these. Then he sends Jiang a video of Ruy Ruy, in which Ruy Ruy says, I am missing my mom a lot. Chung Mu tells Jiang, come to my shop tomorrow to keep Ruy Ruy company. In the next scene, Jiang arrives at Chung Mu's shop to meet Ruy Ruy. Chung Mu asks her to make a dessert with him. Jiang initially plans to refuse, but due to Ruy Rui's insistence, she agrees. Chung Mu asks her to peel strawberries, but Jiang and Ruy Ruy secretly start eating them. The three of them enjoy making the dessert together and have a lot of fun. After some time, Ruy Ruy tells Jiang, if you don't come home, we will miss you a lot. At this moment, Chung Mu takes the opportunity to say, after you left, Ruy Ruy became very lonely. Please come back home. Ruy Ruy adds, Godfather doesn't even know how to make my favorite steamed dishes. Jiang says, yes, you've lost so much weight because of hunger. She finally agrees to return home. After this, Chung Mu asks them both to eat the dessert, but they start fighting over it. Chung Mu pretends to accidentally place his hand on Jiang's head instead of Ruy Rui's. Then all three of them take a selfie together, and Jiang returns home with them. In the next scene, we see Jiang and Ruy Ruy having breakfast. They tell Chung Mu, we are planning to go out somewhere. Chung Mu asks, where are you going? To which Jiang says, nowhere far, we'll just roam around here. Chung Mu replies, according to our contract, you have to tell me where you're going. Jiang says, I'm going to meet my class president. Hearing this, Chung Mu doesn't like it at all and asks, what are you going to do there? Jiang replies, that's my business. I'm going to his sweet shop. Chung Mu dislikes this even more and lies, saying, actually, I don't have anything to do today either. Jiang ignores his words and leaves with Ruy Ruy anyway. In the next scene, Jiang is at a park with her class president and Ruy Ruy. She says to him, today I came here to talk to you about the dessert that was recently launched at your store. He lets her taste the dessert and she says, this tastes exactly like Chung Mu's cake. He replies, I discussed this with headquarters and they said it was directly sourced from the company, so there's no question of copying. Jiang says, I've seen Chung Mu make this dessert. He asks her, do you and Chung Mu live together? Are you in a relationship? Jiang replies, no, we live together because of Ruy Ruy to take care of him. The class president then asks her, when will you promote my desserts? Jiang says, very soon, and tries some more of his desserts, which she finds very good. At this moment, Ruy Ruy comes over. She tries to offer him some sweets, but he says, I don't eat desserts from anywhere except Godfather's store. Meanwhile, Chung Mu is extremely jealous and has been cutting lemons all morning to vent his frustration. His friends notice and comment, something is definitely wrong with him because he never uses lemons in his desserts. On the other side, the class president asks Jiang, are you sure that no one other than you and Chung Mu has seen that notebook? Jiang thinks to herself, Bai Bin had seen that notebook before. Before she can say anything, Ruy Ruy falls and gets hurt. Jiang calls Chung Mu to the hospital. The doctor gives Ruy Ruy a candy, and Ruy Ruy says, even though you hurt me a lot, you gave me candy, so I forgive you. At that moment, Chung Mu arrives and asks about Ruy Rui's condition. The doctor updates Chung Mu and says, I've already given all the details to his parents. Hearing this, Chung Mu becomes very jealous. He picks Ruy Ruy up in his arms and puts him in the car. Jiang is still talking to her class president. After waiting for her for a long time, Chung Mu moves to the front seat and says to Jiang, sit beside me. To make her jealous, Chung Mu deliberately leans in close and fastens her seatbelt before driving off. Now, Chung Mu and Jiang are returning. Chung Mu says to Jiang, you've been behaving strangely. Jiang responds, no, you're the one acting strange. Chung Mu says, well, I saw you at the park sitting with your class president. Jiang says, I don't want to talk to you anymore. In the next scene, Chung Mu and Li Jing are drinking together. Li Jing says to Chung Mu, stop pretending in front of me. I know you really like Jiang, but now her crush has returned. If you don't act soon, she'll go back to her crush. Chung Mu says, that's not going to happen. He asks Chung Mu, have you ever kissed Jiang? Chung Mu replies, yes, a year ago. Li Jing starts laughing and says, you live with her in the same house. At this point, Chungmoo gets angry and leaves, and Lee Jing says, "You'll die single." When Chungmoo gets home, Jang asks him, "Are you drunk?" He says, "Just a little." Then he gets very close to Jang and starts kissing her. Suddenly, they hear a child's voice from the TV, and Jang pushes him away, thinking it's Ruy Ruy. However, Ruy Ruy is asleep, and Chungmoo falls onto the sofa. He says, "You will never forget this kiss." Jang goes to her room and thinks to herself, "This was my first kiss where I was conscious," and feels very happy. The next morning, Chungmoo and Jang are both confused about how to face each other. Jang asks him, "Do you remember anything about last night?" Chungmoo pretends he doesn't remember anything due to being drunk. Later, Jang is playing with Ruy Ruy. Her mom calls and Jang steps aside to answer it. Her mom asks, "Where are you?" Jang replies, "I came to my boss's house to give them some files," because her mom doesn't know that Jang has quit her job and is now a food blogger. She makes an excuse about being busy with work before and cuts the call. Next, we see Chung Yu at a meeting with Mr. Shen, who is her ex-boyfriend. He gets very drunk and says, "Can we restart our relationship along with this business deal?" But she refuses. Mr. Shen starts forcing himself on her. At that moment, Li Jing arrives and pushes him away. A fight breaks out between them, and Li Jing beats him up badly. Afterward, Li Jing and Chung Yu leave together and go to her house, and she suddenly kisses him without saying anything. They begin to get romantic, but then they notice Chungmoo is already there. Chung Yu asks him, "What are you doing here?" Chungmoo replies, "Should I not have come here? I'll leave." Chung Yu says, "No, don't leave." But Li Jing gets very angry and storms out. In the next scene, Chung Yu asks Chungmoo, "What are you doing here?" Chungmoo replies, "Last night I drank too much and kissed Jang." Chung Yu becomes very happy and asks, "Have you confessed your feelings to Jang?" Chungmoo says, "No, not yet." Chung Yu says, "You're crazy! Give her a rose and propose to her first." Chungmoo replies, "Yes, very soon." On the other side, Jang is preparing soup for Chungmoo and remembers that she had invited Chungmoo to taste the soup. When he arrives, he starts to kiss her. Chungmoo and Li Jing are together when Chungmoo asks Li Jing, "What were you doing at my sister's house last night?" Li Jing says, "Nothing. We were just relieving some stress." Chungmoo warns him, "If you ever try to cheat on my sister, I won't spare you." Li Jing replies, "I can help you confess your feelings to Jiang." Chungmoo responds, "No, there's no need for that." Later, Chungmoo goes home, but Jiang isn't talking to him. He keeps trying to talk to her, but she refuses. Then Jiang messages him on that page and asks, "If a guy kisses you while drunk and later forgets, what does it mean?" Chungmoo replies, "It means he likes you." Jiang messages again, "But he never even smiles when looking at me." Chungmoo thinks to himself, "Have I really never smiled at her?" The next morning, Chungmoo goes to Jiang and starts smiling at her for no reason. Jiang starts laughing and says, "You don't know how to smile. Why are you scaring me?" Ruy Ruy also says, "Yes, Godfather, you look like a dummy when you smile." Chungmoo keeps smiling and then leaves. Later, Jiang messages on the page again, and Chungmoo's phone gets a notification. He forgets the phone there. Chungmoo calls out to Jiang, "Bring me my phone." As Jiang is taking the phone to him, she sees her own message on it and realizes that the page belongs to Chungmoo. She also figures out that Chungmoo has been smiling since morning because he likes her, and she becomes very happy. Meanwhile, we see Bai Bin, who is very embarrassed because his girlfriend sold Chungmoo's recipe to someone else for money. Now, there are no customers at Chungmoo's store. Chungmoo, Jiang, and Ruy Ruy are eating together. Jiang says, "I'll wash the dishes today." Ruy Ruy says, "But you told me you don't like washing dishes at all." Later, Chungmoo goes to do laundry, and Jiang says, "Give it to me. I'll wash it." Chungmoo replies, "No, you leave it. I'll do it myself. You already get tired from doing so much work." The two start arguing over who will do the laundry, and Jiang accidentally falls on Chungmoo. Hearing the noise, Ruy Ruy comes over, but Chung Yu and Li Jing quickly cover his eyes. Afterward, Chungmoo tries to explain everything to them, but they leave without listening. Jiang also feels very embarrassed and leaves. Chungmoo changes the door's password to ensure they can't barge in next time. On the other side, the dessert store, where they launch 2 new desserts. Afterward, customers once again form a long line at the store. Chungmoo goes home to tell Jiang about this and sees her sleeping on her laptop after working. As he gets closer, he notices that she is writing an article about her class president's sweet store's dessert. Jiang wakes up and asks Chungmoo, "What happened?" Chungmoo replies, "Nothing. We launched 2 new desserts. Tomorrow, come to my store to taste them." The next day, Jiang goes to Chungmoo's store to taste the desserts. At that moment, Bai Bin comes and serves the dessert to Jiang, apologizing and saying, "Sorry, I doubted you." Jiang replies, At first I was angry with you, but when I found out that you did all this for the betterment of the store, I am not upset with you at all. After this, Chungmu arrives and asks, "How did you like this dessert?" Jiang responds, "It's very good. I can taste the lemon in it and I like it a lot. Can you tell me the story behind it so I can write an article?" Chungmu says, "There's no story behind it." Jiang insists, "Every dessert of yours has a story. Please tell me so I can gain more followers." Chungmu teases her, saying, "Didn't the article you wrote about other sweet store gain you followers?" Jiang replies, "Your store is very special to me because we are a family." Meanwhile, Chungmu's friends and Ruy Ruy are quietly eavesdropping on their conversation. The friends ask Ruy Ruy, "Is something going on between your godfather and Jiang?" Ruy Ruy responds, "Yes, we are a family." The friends comment, "We already suspected that something is brewing in the boss's life." They then leave. Jiang tells Chungmu, "I'm going to a party with my friends today, so you'll need to take care of Ruy Ruy." Chungmu agrees, but says, "You won't drink at the party." Jiang promises, "Okay," and leaves. In the next scene, we see Jiang meeting her classmates, including her class president. The class president says, "The article you wrote about my store got a very good response, so I arranged this party for you." Everyone starts drinking, but Jiang remembers Chungmu's words and refrains. However, everyone insists that she drinks, and she thinks, "Why should I listen to Chungmu?" and starts drinking. She ends up drinking a lot. After everyone leaves, only Jiang and the class president are left. The Hanmu tells her, "I missed my chance a year ago, but I want to tell you now that I really like you." Then he asks, "Do you like me?" Jiang responds, "Yes, I like Chungmu." The Hanmu feels a little sad. At that moment, Chungmu calls Jiang's phone. The Hanmu answers and tells Chungmu, "Jiang has drunk too much. I'm sending you the address. Come and take her." When Chungmu arrives, the Hanmu is holding Jiang. He tells Chungmu, "I can take care of Jiang better than you." In the next scene, Chungmu is carrying Jiang away. Jiang tells him, "Chungmu likes me." Chungmu asks, "Who told you that?" She replies, "You did, and I know you talked to me on that page." Chungmu asks, "Do you also like me?" Jiang stays silent. In the following scene, Jiang is thinking, what kind of girls does Chungmu like, cute or hot? Just then, Ruy Ruy and Chungmu catch her talking to herself, and Jiang feels very embarrassed. She covers her face and leaves. Chungmu calls out, "Today we're going shopping for Ruy Ruy, so get ready." In the next scene, we see them at the shopping mall. A girl approaches Chungmu and asks for his number. Ruy Ruy, not wanting Chungmu to give her his number, says, "Papa, look, Mama is here." The girl assumes Chungmu is married and leaves. Later, Jiang removes a rubber band from her hair and puts it on Chungmu's hand, saying, "From now on, girls won't bother you because they'll think you're in a relationship." At that moment, Ruy Ruy says, "I want to." Jiang ties a ponytail in his hair, making him look very cute. Just then, Jiang gets a message from her sister saying, "Ruy Rui's school is about to start. I'll send someone to bring him back, but don't tell anyone about this yet." Later, they are returning home. Jiang says, "From tomorrow, I'll come to the store with you, and I want to learn how to make desserts." Chungmu agrees. The next scene, Chungmu tells his friends, "Take off early today, I'll close the store early." But his friends refuse and say, "We'll keep working. We don't need a break." In the next scene, Chungmu and Jiang are making desserts together, and in the process, they get very close to each other. One of their friends sees this and tells the others, "Now I understand why Chungmu wanted us out of here." In another scene, Jiang asks to Chungmu's friend, "If a boy is outstanding, how can you attract him?" The friend realizes she's talking about Chungmu and says, "Boss doesn't get attracted to anyone, but don't worry, he's already impressed by you." Jiang feels very happy hearing this. In the next scene, Jiang and Chungmu are sitting at home, and Jiang remembers how close Chungmu got to her while making the dessert. She becomes certain that he likes her now. Later, he asks Jiang, "Do you want to watch a movie?" Jiang agrees. Chungmu thinks, "I'll play a horror movie," while Jiang imagines, "He'll play a romantic movie and then romance with me." However, Chungmu plays an animal documentary instead. After watching it, Jiang says, "Did we come here to watch animals?" Chungmu replies, "Fine, play whatever movie you like." Jiang says, "I don't feel like watching anything now." Chungmu begins to confess his love to Jiang, but just then they hear Ruy Ruy crying. They go to him, and Ruy Ruy says, "I had a dream that I went home, but Mom and Dad weren't there. They left me, and I don't know where they went." Jiang consoles him, saying, "It was just a dream." Ruy Ruy responds, "No, it's true. I'm a burden to them, and that's why they left me here." Hearing this, Chungmu steps outside and has a panic attack. He remembers his mother saying to him, "You're a burden to us." He struggles to console himself. In the next scene, Chungmu goes back to Ruy Ruy and tells Jiang, "I just spoke to his parents." Jiang says, "So you found out that Ruy Ruy is going back?" My sister already told me because his parents have decided not to divorce and Ruy Ruy will meet them soon. The next day, Ruy Ruy tells Chungmu, I'm going back now, but I'm worried about you. Do you plan to live alone your whole life? You'll never be able to get Auntie. Let me help you. Auntie once told me that she's very lonely and wants to make you her boyfriend. If you don't confess to her, Auntie will like someone else, like Uncle Han Me. After saying this, Ruy Ruy goes to Jiang and calls her, come have breakfast with us. Then Ruy Ruy tells Jiang, Godfather said that he feels very lonely and wants to make you his girlfriend. He also made a plan to take you out today. Jiang feels very happy after hearing this. Afterward, Ruy Ruy goes to Chungmu and says, Auntie just told me that she wants to go out with you. Chungmu asks, did she also say where she wants to go? Ruy Ruy replies, she told me that she will like wherever you choose, so don't worry about me. I'm going out to play with Chungyu Auntie today. Then, Ruy Ruy takes his bag and comes outside, where Chungyu is already waiting. It turns out that he had planned for Jiang and Chungmu to go on a date. The two of them start getting ready to go out. Chungmu sends a message in his group chat asking, where do girls like to go on dates? When his friends see his messages in the group chat, they say, this can't be boss. But one friend replies, it is boss, and he's planning to go on a date with Jiang. The friends then start giving Chungmu ideas. At the same time, a friend named Heian receives a message asking, when are you going to pay me? Seeing this message makes Heian very sad. In the next scene, we see Jiang and Chungmu going on a date. Jiang asks, don't you need to go to the store today? Chungmu replies, don't worry. If I miss one day, my salary isn't going to get cut. Meanwhile, Ruy Ruy is sitting in Chungyu's office. At that moment, Li Jing enters and asks, what is Ruy Ruy doing here? Chungyu replies, Chungmu and Jiang went on a date, so Ruy Ruy came to the office with me. Li Jing says, Chungmu is heartless. I can't believe this. Ruy Ruy angrily responds, Godfather isn't heartless. Meanwhile, Chungmu takes Jiang to an archery club, which is his favorite sport. He shows Jiang his archery skills. Chungmu teaches Jiang how to shoot arrows by holding her hand. After this, Jiang asks him, where are we going next? Chungmu takes her to a boxing club. Chungmu enjoys himself there, but Jiang feels bored. Afterward, they go to the seaside and then to a restaurant for dinner. At the restaurant, Chungmu starts confessing his love for Jiang, but suddenly the lights go out. Chungmu becomes very scared, and his condition starts to deteriorate. Just then, Jiang turns on the light for him. Shortly after, the waiters arrive and explain, the power went out due to a technical issue but will be restored soon. Jiang then says, I'm very happy today. If there's something you want to say, then go ahead and say it. Then he says, yes. You will also get more opportunities to stay with me and learn many things. Jiang then says, is this all you wanted to say to me? Nothing else? Chungmu replies, yes, this is all. Jiang thinks to herself, he has no intention of proposing to me today. Both of them then leave to go home. While they are on their way home, Jiang receives a call from her mom who asks, where are you? Jiang replies, I'm on my way home, I'll talk to you later. Chungmu asks, does your mom know what job you do? Jiang says, no, she doesn't like it. She doesn't consider it a real job. Chungmu then asks, how long are you going to hide this from your parents? Jiang replies, if I tell them, they will force me to back home. She then shows him her written articles. At that moment, they become very close. In the next scene, Ruy Ruy asks Chungmu, Godfather, how was your date? Can I call you uncle in the future? Chungmu refuses and says, maybe I'll propose casually, but she might not like it. Ruy Ruy says, I'm going back, but nothing has happened between you two. I will have to do something. He goes to Jiang's door and knocks, saying, I want to play with you. Jiang opens the door and Chungmu says, don't bother, Auntie. Ruy Ruy then takes her to the room and locks the door, leaving Chungmu alone outside. The next scene shows all three of them going outside to play. While playing, Jiang accidentally kisses Chungmu. They all have a lot of fun and also do a photo shoot. Ruy Ruy doesn't miss a single opportunity to bring them closer together. In the next scene, we see Chungmu and Jiang packing Ruy Ruy's things. Ruy Ruy says to them, please don't be sad. I will keep visiting you both. After that, Ruy Ruy says, next time, when I come here, I'll play with your little brother and sister. Hearing this, Jiang laughs a lot. Then Ruy Ruy goes back home. After he leaves, both of them become very sad. They return home, carefully keeping his toy, and recall the beautiful moments spent with Ruy Ruy. At that moment, Jiang says, I should leave now. Chungmu stops her, but Jiang says, I stayed here to take care of Ruy Ruy. Now that he's gone, it won't be right for me to stay here. Chungmu thinks, maybe Jiang doesn't want to stay with me. Jiang then says, until I find a new apartment, I have to stay here. Chungmu says, okay, when you find the apartment, let me know. I'll help you with the shifting. Jiang thinks, Maybe Chungmu doesn't want me to stay at his house because he didn't even try to stop me. In the next scene, Li Jing and Chungmu are together. Li Jing asks him, "Why are you so sad?" Chungmu tells him, "Jiang is leaving my house." Li Jing says, "You should have told her your feelings. Why would she stay at your house without any reason?" Chungmu responds, "You know my situation. I haven't even told her about my illness." In the next scene, Chungmu is very sad about Jiang leaving and thinks to himself, how will she be stopped? He goes to her room's door, which is closed, and Jiang is on the other side, but he doesn't have the courage to knock on the door. The next morning, in the store, Hanjing is waiting for Heian. When he arrives, she asks, "Are you in pain?" Then, to make everyone listen, she says, "Yes, I'm his girlfriend, and I shouldn't have hit him so hard." His friends start teasing him. Later, Jiang finds a note from Chungmu in which he has written, "I'm going away for a few days and no one knows when I'll return." At this point, Jiang thinks to herself, where did he go? This was supposed to be mine. Then she sees Chungmu's notebook there. Initially, she thinks to put it aside as it's his private book, but then she remembers Chungmu had told her, "You can read my notebook anytime." She looks at it and notices that Chungmu has written some stories about his dishes. But since Jiang had proposed to him, all the desserts he has made until now have been inspired by Jiang. After reading this, Jiang becomes very happy. Meanwhile, Chungmu is meeting his teacher, and there are other people there who are dealing with mental issues. The teacher asks them, "How is your health?" A person says, "I wanted to love, but I couldn't, and people like us shouldn't even think about love." After hearing all of this, Chungmu decides, "I will never tell Jiang about my feelings." On the other side, Jiang is out of the city and meets the class president, who has opened a branch of his shop there. He asks her, "How is Ruy Ruy?" Jiang tells him, "Ruy Ruy has gone back home, and I'm going to shift out of Chungmu's house soon." The class president is very happy and says, "You now have 1 million followers, please support my store." After that, Jiang returns to the hotel and messages Chungyu, "I will stay here for a few more days to promote the Hanmu's store. Afterward, I will shift out of Chungmu's house." Chungyu gets worried and goes out to meet her. Li Jing also goes with her, and Chungyu says to him, "Now is the time for Jiang to know everything." In the next scene, Chungyu tells Jiang everything about Chungmu's illness. Jiang says, "So this was the reason why Chungmu didn't tell me his feelings. He didn't want me to be a burden on him." As she speaks, tears start falling from her eyes. Chungyu says, "I didn't tell you this so you would sympathize with my brother. I told you so you could make a decision about him and yourself." Jiang replies, "I need some time to think." Chungyu insists, but Li Jing takes her away. Meanwhile, Chungmu is still with his teacher. The teacher motivates him to confess his love to Jiang. Chungmu rushes off without listening further because he has made the decision to confess his love. On the other hand, Jiang is looking at Chungmu's pictures and reflecting on how she spent so much time with him, yet never learned about his illness. This thought brings tears to her eyes. Later, Jiang goes to meet Chungmu, who also sets out to meet her. At home, Chungmu learns Jiang is not there and calls her. Meeting her outside, he says, "I came to express my love and even made a dessert for you." Jiang says, "I know everything," and she kisses him. Jiang says, "I was really scared when I heard about your illness. Not because of your illness, but because I didn't want you to think that I had given up." Chungmu hugs her, and Jiang kisses him back. They both return home together. Now, after returning home, both are very confused and wonder how to face each other. Chungmu says, "We're sitting too far apart. We should sit a bit closer." Jiang says, "We should sit even closer," and she sits in his lap. Chungmu says, "This is happening too fast." When Jiang starts to leave, Chungmu pulls her back, and they begin kissing. The next morning, Jiang posts Chungmu's confession dessert article with her loving feelings. At the same time, Chungmu sends a message saying that he misses Jiang a lot, which makes Jiang very happy. In the next scene, we see Jiang with his sister in the company. She says to Jiang, "Your goal of gaining 1 million followers is completed, so the company is going to offer you some other deals, 3 of which are out of town." When Chungmu hears out of town, he looks back. Then Jiang says to him, "Don't worry. Considering your condition, I rejected all 3 deals." Upon hearing this, Chungmu feels a little relieved. In the next scene, Chungmu's friend is seen distributing flyers in a public place. On the side, Han Xing is helping Heian with this task. She says to Heian, "I'm standing in this sun just for you and you can't even give me a smile." Heian, while laughing, says, "You've worn so much to protect yourself from the sun, yet you're still getting burned." She says, "You're so heartless." Meanwhile, Chungmu's friends are talking and say, "We should tell the boss about them. We can't just watch them alone." Then they notice their boss holding Jiang's hand, which shocks them. Then, both of them starts distributing the flyers. Meanwhile, Chungmu's friends can't believe that the boss is the same person who used to stay away from girls. In the next scene, Jong and Chungmu return home, and Jong is tired from distributing flyers. Chungmu brings her medicine, but she refuses it and says, "Sit a little closer first." Chungmu moves closer to her, and Jong asks him to come even closer. After that, he gives her the medicine, and Jong says, "Now I'm completely fine. Your cuteness is my medicine." The next morning, Jong receives a call from her mom. Her mom tells her, "Your dad and I are coming today." Upon hearing this, Jong quickly tells Chungmu, "My parents are coming today." She also reveals, "I didn't tell them I quit my job. If I tell them the truth, they'll take me back with them." Chungmu says, "It's fine. I'll go with you to pick them up." He asks, "You don't even have a home, so will you let them stay in a hotel?" They both decide that they will tell her parents about their relationship. In the next scene, Chungmu arrives home with her mom and dad. Jong then says to her mom, "He is my boyfriend." Her mom and dad are both shocked and look towards Jong's room. Chungmu says, "Don't worry, we are still staying in separate rooms." After this, Jong's mom thanks Chungmu for taking care of Ruy Ruy. Chungmu, still nervous, says, "You don't need to thank me. Ruy Ruy is my godfather." He adds, "What I mean is, I am Ruy Rui's godfather." In the next scene, we see Jong's parents who have brought a lot of items for her and are unpacking them. While unpacking, they find a medicine box, which makes her mom worried, wondering, is our daughter sick? Her dad searches the box and finds out that it's medication for depression. This makes her mom even more worried, and her dad reads the label on the box, which says, "It's Chungmu's." In the next scene, Chungmu goes to the boxing gym to meet Li Jing. He starts hitting Chungmu and says, "You're such a selfish person." Chungmu, confused, asks, "What are you talking about?" Li Jing hits him again and says, "Your sister don't want a relationship with me because she thinks that if Jiang leaves you, you'll end up alone. She only cares about you." In the next scene, Chungmu returns home, and Jiang gets worried upon seeing his injury. She asks, "How did this happen?" Chungmu tells her, Li Jing did it, and hugs her. He then asks, "Can you stay here tonight?" The next morning, Jiang's parents are shocked to see her coming out of Chungmu's room. Her mother asks, "Jiang, what's going on?" Jiang quickly says, "You're misunderstanding. I'll explain. Last night, Chungmu and Li Jing had a fight, so I stayed with him." Her father, visibly angry, says, "Did we teach you this? Is this how you behave?" Jiang tries to calm him down, but he storms off in frustration. Meanwhile, Li Jing is feeling guilty. He rushes to Chungmu's store to apologize. However, Chungmu initially refuses to talk to him. At the same time, Jiang calls Chungmu. She says, "Why didn't you wake me up? I had to face so much embarrassment in front of mom and dad." Chungmu chuckles and replies, "Punish me however you want, but right now I can't talk because Li Jing is here to apologize." Jiang retorts, "Take revenge for me. He ruined my handsome boyfriend's face," and hangs up. In the next scene, Jiang's parents are tidying up her room when they come across a diary. Her mother picks it up, but her father says we shouldn't read her private things. After some hesitation, they open it and see detailed entries about her monthly expenses, many of which are surprisingly high. Jiang's mom says, "Jiang works so hard, then why is she struggling financially?" Meanwhile, Jiang and Chungmu are on their way home. Jiang says, "How could you forgive Li Jing so easily? You should have made him feel more guilty." Chungmu laughs and replies, "He's already miserable enough." As they approach the house, Jiang spots her parents and says, "I think it's time I tell mom and dad the truth about my job." Chungmu nods in support and says, "You should." At dinner, Jiang's mom calls her to eat, but Jiang says, "I want to talk to both of you first. My real job is as a food blogger." Her father becomes angry and says, "You lied to us all this time." Jiang starts crying and apologizes. Her mother consoles her, saying, "Don't worry, we already knew about your job. Chungmu told us everything." Jiang looks surprised as her mother continues, "He explained how passionate you are about blogging." Jiang replies, "Does this mean you won't force me into the accountant job?" He says, "No, we won't," and gives her a new computer, saying, "Your old computer was very outdated." The whole family becomes emotional. Chungmu is watching all this and pretends to get emotional too. Then, everyone starts having dinner. Jiang's father says, "I've booked the tickets for tomorrow. We need to go back." Jiang says, "Please stay a few more days. We will miss you all so much." Her mother says, "If you miss us so much, then come with us right now." Jiang replies, "No, I will come to meet you later." Everyone starts laughing. Later, Chungmu is at shop. Suddenly, Jiang calls him and says, "I wrote an article for your dessert. I deserve some reward for that." Chungmu says, "Yes, I'll reward you by giving myself to you." Jiang replies, "No, you're already mine. I want something else." Then, Chungmu's friends start talking, saying, "Our boss has changed a lot. He used to work like a machine, but now he's even laughing. In the next scene, Jang comes to Chung-moo with a rose. Chung-moo says, "Last time when you gave me a rose, there was also a letter, and you had written some poetry in it." He starts reading it, and Jang stops him, covering his mouth. He says, "Write me a letter as well." When Jang writes letters for him, he rejects all of them and says, "Now I'm starting to doubt whether you even like me." He adds, "The letter you wrote for your class president mentioned the sea and mountains," to which she replies, "It's nothing. You're just jealous of that." In the next scene, we see Chung-moo's friends talking in the store saying, "Someone is spreading rumors against the store and the blogger has millions of followers." After hearing this, Chung-moo doesn't care, but all the friends become worried. In the next scene, we see the blogger during his live stream, where he says Chung-moo is mentally ill, and his sister Chung-yu forcefully got into a relationship with Lee Jing. Chung-yu and Lee Jing come to meet this blogger, and they find out that he is the one spreading the rumors and is actually her ex-boyfriend. After this, Chung-yu goes to his office, slaps him, and says, "I never want to see your face again." In the next scene, we see many people trying to enter Chung-yu's store, but his friends don't let anyone inside. Then, a girl manages to get in and says, Chung-moo was a burden to his parents and is mentally ill. After this, Chung-moo starts kicking everyone out, but his phone drops, and he has a panic attack. He then runs away from there. Chung-yu and Lee Jing are both very worried because no one knows where Chung-moo is. Jang says, "I know where he is," and goes to the place where she first met Chung-moo. Chung-moo is there, crying, and she tells him, "You're not alone anymore. We are all with you." Chung-moo laughs and says, "I came here not to end my life, but to take a break." In the next scene, Jang and Chung-moo spend their first night together, and Jang says, "Turn off the light." Chung-moo is nervous, but Jang consoles him, and for the first time, Chung-moo is not afraid of the dark. The next day, Chung-moo proposes to Jang for marriage. After 1 year, we see their wedding, and Chung-moo's friends are teasing him, saying, "Now you don't even come to the store without your wife." Then, Ruy Ruy arrives and says, "My parents had a fight. Can I stay with you guys?" Chung-moo lifts him up, and that's the happy ending of Drama. How much rating would you give this drama? And which was your favorite scene? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the videos.